All right, everyone, please settle down. Let's all take our seats, please. Let's settle down, please. Thank you. Okay, everyone, I am your teacher, Mr. Groomer. I know that name is funny in this climate, but today we are here to learn, all right? Let's learn together. All right, let's start with something very, very easy. What does 1 plus 1 equal? Yes, Jimmy. I think it equals 2. Oh, Jimmy, that would have been right a long time ago. The correct answer is actually heterosexual. Okay, because in the old world, there used to be only 2 genders. So 1 plus 1 equals heterosexual. Okay, next we have another easy one. What does 2 plus 1 equal? Anyone? Come on, don't be shy, guys. It equals transgender, of course. We take the evil heteronormativity and add another 1, which is our beautiful and brave transgender community, meaning that now we have 3 genders. But as we all know, genders can increase. And as of right now, there are at least 78 genders. Or more. Okay, it looks like you guys aren't understanding the math portion, so let me try and help you by going over to English. Now I want you to figure out what is wrong with this sentence. A man, period, took her daughter, period, to his first pride parade. What would be wrong in this sentence? Yes, Bobby. There shouldn't be a period by man or daughter. Well, that's where you're wrong, as both men and women can have periods. Make sure to check your privilege. Anyone else? Yes, Jake. Well, the pronouns should be switched. Well, Jack, that is very, very close, but because we don't know who these people are, we can't just assume their pronouns. So the sentence should read, they took their Z child to Zed's first Pride Festival. Make sense? Isn't learning about this stuff fun? This next part, you have to promise me not to tell your parents about. When a mommy and a daddy love each other very much, they have sex.
What you are about to experience is out of this world. Politics, history, and of course, a lot of entertainment. It's time to rock it with the Docket.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Kyle Dockery with the Dockery Docket. We are here with our very 93rd episode of the Dockery Docket. I'm excited to be here, and I hope that you are excited to be here as well. And if you are excited to be here, make sure to go down below, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, so then you never miss one of my videos. So a few weeks ago, I talked about the Parents' Rights in Education bill. Now, if you remember this bill, you will know that the media, including the left and others, have completely lied to the American public and called it the Don't Say Gay bill. Once again, I will quote NPR. The point of the legislation is simple. It prohibits any instruction about sexuality or gender between kindergarten and 3rd grade. Just to make sure I'm clear, the bill says absolutely nothing about being gay. It doesn't even mention the word gay. The bill doesn't even say if you can or can't teach about gayness. Now, a few weeks ago, Governor DeSantis signed this bill into law, much to the anger of teachers that wanted to teach your children about sex. And now this bill has caused so many different issues. I was banned from a subreddit for saying that boys are boys and girls are girls. But before that, me and this random person had a good debate about what this bill was. And he asked a very good question. Is there evidence that this is happening in schools? Are there schools out in the world right now that are teaching children about sex and other things that may be inappropriate for their age? The answer is yes. And it's not just in the classroom, it is happening outside the classroom as well, and it is absolutely disgusting. Now, because this law was based on the lie that you can't say gay at school, many teachers and opponents of this law assume that this bill is attacking the LGBTQU AAIP community. However, this is not true, as there are some examples of quote-unquote grooming coming from Republican states as well that I find gross and absolutely disgusting and should be banned. As once again, this was sent from a subscriber. Thank you for that, subscriber. If you have articles that you want to send me, make sure to go over to my Facebook, Twitter, and send them my way. You might be put in a video. But anyway, when he sent me this, I did a double take because I honestly didn't believe it. As this article says that Idaho lawmakers killed a bill that would end child marriage under 16. which means that according to Idaho law, children, remember this is under the age of consent, under 16, can marry with the consent of a parent. Now, if there's a situation where, say for example, a 16-year-old wants to marry another 16-year-old, the parents could strongly suggest otherwise. If they are the same age, I feel like that's a lot better than a 16-year-old marrying a 23-year-old or 25-year-old. As if that situation were to occur, say a 25 to 45-year-old man wants to marry a 12 to 16-year-old girl, then that is called pedophilia and could be seen as a form of grooming. This isn't the only state that passed legislation like this, as Tennessee proposed legislation that would legalize child marriage. According to the bill, there is no age limit on when you can get married. I feel like both of these different bills are promoting older people to start dating and marry younger people that are under the age of consent, meaning that they are children, and this is absolutely gross stuff that shouldn't be in laws anywhere in any state. So while the child marriage stuff isn't happening in the classroom, we should still know that there are some people in the classroom that want to do evil things to children. There are stories all over the place, just look it up, of male or female teachers wanting to do inappropriate things with their students or have inappropriate relationships with them. So much so that the police wrote a song about it called "Don't Stand So Close to Me." There may be some creepy teacher that is doing inappropriate things to students in school, and they are telling them, this is our little secret. Don't tell your parents. This is grooming, and this is why in the Parents' Rights in Education Act, they make sure that there are no secrets in between students and teachers. And I hope if anything happened like that to a student, they would be able to tell a counselor or their parents, and then the teacher should be fired right away. Or better yet, throw them in prison. I mean, I think that we can all agree on this. If a teacher is teaching inappropriate stuff to children, is keeping secrets with children, or is marrying children, then these are groomers, terrible people, gross people, and they all belong in prison. Now, there is also sex education going on in the classroom, and there are people that want to push it towards elementary school. There was a meeting between people that are part of a group called The Future of Sex Education. And in one of these videos, one of the participants says that she is happy that there is research that is showing that sex education is good, not just in health class, but also in every single class. Here's what she had to say about that.
So I would say the most surprising piece was how much evidence there is for sex education in elementary school. I think the other piece that was surprising and in a good way was how much in general we found sex education going on outside of the health education classroom, even in middle and high school, in literature classes and math classes and social studies classes and PE classes and arts.
Now, maybe I'm a little bit older and don't understand the hip trends, but how do you associate sex ed into math class? Like, are we going to say 2 + 2 equals transgender? Because I heard somewhere that that's wrong.
2 + 2 don't equal transgender. It equals 4. You need to get back to teaching them how to read instead of teaching them how to go to hell.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Robinson. Along with this, why is it even needed in any of these other subjects? That to me just doesn't make any sense, and it's not needed at all. You don't need it in other subjects. Health class makes a lot more sense than in math class. If teachers are continually talking about sexual things or inappropriate things in the classroom, doesn't that sound a little bit more like indoctrination than teaching them about important things when it comes to sex? As one point I agree with in one of these threads by Kelly S. on Twitter, I'll put her picture right here, thank you for this. If we teach children about their bodies in an appropriate manner, meaning that we tell them that these are your parts and they shouldn't be touched by any adult, then I think children would benefit from that, and maybe children could be saved from sexual abuse, which is always a good thing. As I am of the belief that there should be some kind of childhood sex education, like I just talked about, but it needs to be there for the safety of the students and it can't cross any red lines at all. Like if they are explaining how a baby is made in graphic detail, then I think they have gone a little bit overboard. I think that we can all agree that taking away a child's innocence is wrong and absolutely disgusting. And as we dive deeper, it seems like more teachers are pushing a more LGBTQIAAP agenda. This can be extremely confusing to children at a young age. One of these slides from the focus of sex education talks about how there are so many different pronouns. And in this slide, the regular pronouns, he, him, his, she, her, hers, are crossed out. And instead, Zed, them, and Zaire, I don't even know how to say that. How are children going to be able to say this? Anyway, that is marked with a green check mark. The slide says that all language is consistently evolving. New terms are introduced, while others fade from us, or change meaning over time. The issue is that once again, I will say it, I'm confused about gender pronouns. Could you imagine how a child would feel about this? Because sometimes in the LGBTQIAAP community, the pronouns change every single day. So imagine you have a teacher, and one day she's like, my pronouns are she, her, hers. And the next day they come in and they're zer, zerg, and zerg self. Like, that to a child is very confusing and something that children, especially in kindergarten through 3rd grade, don't need to worry about. However, there are teachers that are pushing this agenda, as there was a Twitter post from Libs of TikTok showing a teacher with a book titled, What Are Your Words? According to the description of this book, whenever Ari's uncle Leor comes to visit, they ask Ari one question. What are your words? Someday Ari uses she, her. Other days, Ari uses he, him. But on the day of the neighborhood Big Summer Bash, Ari doesn't know what words to use. On the way to the party, Ari and Leor meet lots of neighbors and learn the words each of them use to describe themselves, including pronouns like she, her, he, him, they, them, I, am, and z, zer. As Ari tries on different pronouns, they discover that it's okay to not know your words right away. Sometimes you have to wait for your words to find you. Now, should this book be banned from elementary schools? No. I just think that the whole pronoun thing is very confusing to children. And I believe that it will only get more confusing to children as we dive deeper into talking about how teachers want to teach children about the transgender community. We talked a little bit about the trans community a few weeks ago and how some people are trying to destroy female sports. I want to make sure that I make something very, very clear when I say that there are people in this world that definitely struggle with gender dysphoria. This is a terrible situation for people, and they should be treated and helped. However, in schools, there is a new way to treat gender dysphoria, and that is to claim that boys can be girls and girls can be boys. As there was a school that had a poster of their book of the month for the month of February, and it was called 10,000 Dresses. This book describes how a biological boy feels like a girl and wants to wear dresses. And no matter how many times people tell him that he's a boy, he knows that he's a girl. Okay, here's the situation. Children at a young age are not sexual beings because they lack the hormones that make them want to be sexual. That process happens during puberty. So there are some boys that like to wear dresses when they are at a younger age. And maybe they like to play with Barbie dolls or something like that. But as they get older, they grow out of it. There are girls that some people call tomboys that like to do what the boys do. They like to get dirty and they like to fight. They don't like what other girls at their age like. And guess what? Tomboys grow out of it as well. With children that are in this situation, should we say that they are trans? Or should we wait a few years and see if they grow out of it? Personally, I think that we should wait till after puberty, as there have been 10 studies that have come out recently that show that on average, 80% of children change their minds and do not grow up to be transgender when they are an adult. Some of these studies were kind of old, but there was a 2013 study that said the exact same thing. There was a small Dutch study that looked at 127 students that were classified as gender dysphoric, and 80 or 64% of the children grew out of it, and 47 or 37% of students continued to have gender dysphoria. There is evidence that some children grow out of gender dysphoria. So if there is a child at school that may be a tomboy, the idea that we are going to call those children transgender and put them on puberty blockers, or worse yet, start them on hormone replacement therapy and cut off certain body parts when they are young and don't understand what's going on, all of which could be irreversible. This is dangerous, but it is being accepted even by the White House. As March 31st was Trans Visibility Day, and Joe Biden made a special speech where he said a couple of things that pertain to children in the classroom. Here's that speech.
To parents of transgender children, affirming your child's identity is one of the most powerful things you can do to keep them safe and healthy. To any transgender American who's struggling, please know that you're not alone. To parents and children alike, please ask for help and know this: you're so brave, you belong, and we have your back. God bless you all. Be brave.
Once again, I will say that people that are struggling with gender dysphoria need help and they need treatment, because I can't imagine going through something like that. That just has to be absolutely terrible. However, when Joe Biden talks about trans kids, that's where a red flag flies in my head, as Joe Biden talked about gender-confirming healthcare for children. What does this mean? Well, according to the Office of Population Affairs, affirmation care means adopting gender-affirming hairstyles, clothing, name, gender pronouns, and restrooms and other facilities, puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and gender-affirming surgeries. So it seems like the Biden administration is okay with children deciding that they want to be a girl, so then they cut off their genitals and go on hormone therapy to stop puberty. Right now, we know that cutting off certain parts of your body is irreversible. However, there haven't been long studies to figure out if hormone blockers are irreversible or what the effects could be. What if this is dangerous? And then we are teaching students in kindergarten or third grade that boys can be girls and girls can be boys. So then a person starts down this road and they get their puberty blocked, they get started on hormone replacement therapy, and then they get their genitals mutilated, then they hit puberty and realize that all this stuff was wrong and now they want to go back, but they can't. And now, because they got stuff removed, they can't have children, or they can't have sexual desire because they destroyed their bodies. This, to me, is the saddest thing, and I wish that there was a better way to help these people, because I know that this is a real problem. But telling children that they can be a different gender is not a good idea, because kids are moldable. They can be sculpted, and they can sadly be groomed. I believe that there are people out there that want all children to go on puberty blockers, and then once they reach puberty, they can decide if they want to be a boy or if they want to be a girl, whether they want to be gay or straight. And this leads me to talk about something new that I discovered in my weeks-long research. This is the idea of queer theory. Now, there are many scholarly articles out there that talk about this new theory, but I will warn you that they are coming for your children. As there's an article called Queer Futurity and Childhood Innocence Beyond the Injury of Development. Now, I will say that I got this article from a podcaster named James Lindsay, as he talks about this very article, and he goes through the whole entire thing and talks about what they're trying to do to your children. I highly recommend that podcast. But there are some things in that article that I found as well that I thought were very, very interesting. So now this article mentions the word queer, and according to Merriam-Webster, it says that queer means a person who is gay, lesbian, bisexual, pansexual, or otherwise not heterosexual. So I want you to understand what this article wants to do to your children. So this article doesn't just say that in elementary school we have to make sure that we protect children that are gay or queer. Instead, every single child should be queer. As the article says, the writer is simply not interested in the idea of a gay child, but also in queerness of all children, which results from the perpetual delay of reason that ensures adulthood does not come too soon. So they want children to grow up queer, so then when they get old enough, they can choose if they want to be gay, if they want to be straight, or if they want to be trans. But when schools keep pushing this idea that gay is good and trans is good, then it becomes more like indoctrination to make children gay, We see this as the number of people that have identified as LGBTQIAAP has skyrocketed in the last few years. As according to a recent Gallup poll, in 2017, 4.5% of people in the study identified as LGBTQIAAP. Then in 2020, it jumped to 5.6%, and then in 2021, 7.1% were claimed to be LGBTQIAP. Is this because we are more accepting of the LGBTQIAP community? Or is it because we are teaching this stuff to children in schools? We are also seeing big corporations like Disney promoting LGBTQIAP content, as one of the Disney CEOs said that they want to make sure that 50% of their cast are either people of color or a part of the LGBTQIAP community. Another woman said that there is no one stopping her from putting queer stuff in children's programming. All of this adds up and makes it so people want to be gay or trans because then they will claim that it is hip to be queer when there are actual people in our world today that are struggling with gender dysphoria or believing in something that isn't true about themselves. In the end, I think I covered all my bases on this issue. There was an article that came out recently that asked, why are conservatives so concerned about groomers? The truth is because we don't want the childhood innocence to be destroyed by a teacher or a perverted person that wants to get married to a 16-year-old. And with this idea of queer theory in schools, one of the consequences is that childhood innocence will be destroyed. So then there is a blur in between what an adult is and what a child is. As according to that article that I talked about above, beyond referencing LGBTQ identity in children, queer childhood can rupture conventional schemes of growing up, as it does anticipated congruency, the enforcement of strict borders between childhood and adult, and forms affinities continued on grounds of mutual feelings of shame and difference. This means that according to queer theory, adults and children are the same, which means that they can love each other, they can get married, or do inappropriate things with each other. This is grooming, and it is wrong. If you want to do inappropriate things to children, then you are a groomer. If you want to talk to children about sex behind their parents' backs and tell them that this is our little secret, then you are a groomer. If you are trying to convince children that they can mutilate their bodies and do irreversible damage, then you are a groomer. Groomer can be anyone. They can be gay, they can be straight, they can be trans, they can be asexual. It doesn't matter who they are. Groomers are gross. Period. End of story. And anyone that is a groomer deserves to be put in prison for life. They shouldn't even be near a child at all. And if you agree with me, make sure to hit that like button down below. And with that, I just want to thank you so much for watching this episode of the Dockery Docket. And until next time, like my mom always says, be good, be kind, be loving, goodbye.